Hey everybody, thank you for logging on for this webinar. My name is Chris Malmberg. I'm an instructional designer at the University of New England for the College of Graduate and Professional Studies, and I am super happy to be joined today by Henri Moser, who is the online learning specialist, and Lori Rand, the online writing specialist at the Student Academic Success Center, who are here to talk about how faculty can collaborate with them to promote success in their classrooms with their students. And we're going to be talking about a wide range of different ways of sort of connecting with them and connecting their students with them to get the most out of the services that they offer. One note at the very outset, we're going to be talking about services such as appointments and one-on-one tutorials that are for matriculated students, but they also have resources on their website, and they work with faculty, and those are there for people who want to use them and making their classes better. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Lori Rand, who's going to take over the first part of this presentation, and after her, Henry will take it for a bit. You guys can ask questions at any time, and I'll chime in to voice them to the presenter if it seems like it's pertinent to that moment, or I'll wait until they've stopped to ask it at an appropriate time. And also, this is being recorded for people who want to see it later. So without further ado, I'm going to throw this over to Lori for the first part of this presentation.
Hi, everybody. This is Lori. It's really great that we have this opportunity to talk to you about what we do and how we can work together so your students can develop their confidence and their capability to work at the graduate level. So let's jump into telling you a little bit about who we are, first of all. Henri Moser is going to be talking to you a little bit later on about his work as a learning specialist and the range of things that he provides for students. I'm a writing specialist, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about what I do here. We also have a small team of part-time tutors that help us out, a couple of writing support tutors, and occasionally content tutors that come in as well. I mentioned Brenda Edmonds. She's our coordinator on the Portland campus, and she also helps with writing support if needed. So that's who we are, a few of us supporting quite a number of students. And I'm going out of my comfort zone here. I do not like showing pictures of myself. I do not put myself on camera usually, but I want to share this with you because I think students really appreciate seeing a face and hearing a voice, especially on the online environment. So out of my comfort zone, but here I am. Hi, I'm sitting on the steps of Proctor Hall on the Portland campus, and it's warm out. All right, so the first thing that we want to share with you is our access. We want you to know that students do have a lot of access to us. This is just writing support, and there are additional hours for what Henry does as well. But 25 to 30 hours a week, we have appointments available for students at night, on weekends, because we know many of them are working. The other thing that we're doing that is a real shift from a couple years ago, when I came online as the writing specialist, we were helping students with writing support by having them email drafts. We would comment on them and send them back. When I came on board as a writing specialist, we shifted over to a web conferencing format where we actually make appointments, meet with students online during these appointments. We talk to them. We have opportunities for sort of instructional tutoring. We look at the drafts, they practice things. So that was a really nice change in accessibility to a real person and talking about writing and how to improve it. So I thought it might be interesting for you to see how the students do access appointments for us and what the options are for using SASC online. So let's see if I can do this switch over here. All right, so we have a program called Tutor Track, And I'm going to pretend I'm one of your students. I've gone to this unedutrack.com, and I'm going to sign myself in. And as you can imagine, these things go down at the most inconvenient times, so we'll hope that this will work today. All right, so students come to this page and they have some options. The instructions are right there for how they find appointments if they take some time to read it. But what they do is they search for availabilities. I'm going to become a sample student, but they'll add their names here. And then they have choices. We are the online campus. So this is a campus-wide appointment system, which is kind of cool. The students can choose what the class is, their class that you're in, so we know which course they're working with. And I wanted to show you this in particular. There are a number of different things that SASC does, including ESOL consulting. Henri's the learning specialist. We have tutors around content at times, and then writing support. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. Our appointments go out 2 weeks ahead of time, so students do have plenty of time of looking at their calendars, seeing when a paper is due, and making an appointment early on. So 2 weeks out, look at the range of time, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., a lot of flexibility here. And then if we do a search, you can see this is what the students will see. These are all the appointments that are available for writing support. These are going to fill up pretty quickly in the next couple of days for next week because we have some papers due. But the students will simply click on the time that they want for an appointment, and they'll get an email. We will too. And we reach out to them, explain the appointment process of how we meet via web conference, and we go from there. So it's a pretty simple appointment process. The only time that accessibility can be an issue is a day or two before a paper is due. Students may say that they tried to get a hold of us and weren't able to access an appointment. That might be true, although we do make every effort to meet with students if they reach out to us, even if it's a brief meeting. So the accessibility, I think, is pretty impressive for what we can offer students there. All right, back to my PowerPoint. So that's our access. I lost my screen. All right. Sorry about that. All right, so how do students find us? How do they know how to go make an appointment with us? And Henri offers orientation workshops at the beginning of terms, and these explain our services in detail and how to reach us. And also, we have a Google site that has a bunch of writing support materials and citation materials, APA, AMA resources. But you are really important. Your referrals, you noticing when students are struggling early on, that is crucial to helping them be successful before things kind of go downhill too fast. So we count on you for referrals. Some thoughts about making a referral to SASC, whether you're doing it to your whole class, maybe in an announcement, or you're talking to a student individually. Students are often come to us say, you know, I'm a terrible writer, I've never been good at it, it's really hard for me. And we try to shift that around. That's a fixed mindset kind of approach to a growth mindset, which is, you know, it's hard. Writing's hard. You have to work at it. It takes a lot of time. Nobody's really great at it without a lot of effort. So a couple of messages that might be helpful for students so they don't feel like they're deficient, although their skills may not be up to par yet, but they're really about making improvements, and that's what we're here for. So a message could be all writers, no matter how good you are, all writers benefit from an objective reader, and that there's no way around it, that you have to put in the time and the practice to be good at writing. So we want to be seen as a positive resource, not something that you go to when you don't do well. Here's a key concept, and I know Henry will mention this as well, but the sooner that students can connect with us, the better chance of success in your class. So what we can work with you is having you help us with an early detection of writing issues early in a class, that whether it's from noticing in discussion posts or an early assignment, maybe getting a hold of Lori and Henry can be helpful before we go too much further here, rather than waiting till the big assignment at the end and they do poorly on that and there's not a lot of time to rectify it. Although we want to say faculty's been great at often giving students a chance to redo an assignment that they failed after meeting with us. So I think that's been wonderful flexibility, and the goal is to not get to that point, but to catch us before that happens. I want to talk, I can talk to you a little bit about what we do during an appointment, but I think what might be more helpful today is something you might not be aware of. We actually meet with students ahead of their writing, and making appointments early to talk about an assignment actually can create a better paper. So they can get a hold of us before they even have a draft. And if you know that and can refer students, that's a great heads up for them. Also, if students plan well, they get a draft to us several days, a week before it's due, and then they have more time to work on it to improve it. Because again, time is really the crucial element to doing a good job in thinking and writing. So your role is helping them get to us early. Instructional design is also a crucial piece of, getting students set off on the right foot. And so here are just some thoughts that we've talked about with IDs in faculty and want to continue these conversations about, in the beginning of a course, starting with a low stakes writing assignment. And that might mean, maybe a credit, non-credit kind of assignment so that you get to check out early on students' writing ability and thinking ability if they're actually interpreting the prompts in the way that you're hoping they will. Often courses may start out with a more informal reflection kind of piece of writing, but that may not alert you to the critical thinking skills that could be missing. So maybe moving up a short but critical thinking oriented piece of writing that requires a little bit of analysis or some synthesis, that helps you catch some issues early on before a big paper. And then finally, if you have that opportunity early in the class, it's not only looking at the writing, but it's a chance to look at their thinking. Do they get what the prompt is asking them to do? And then having us there to talk it through with them can make all the difference for how they get started. A lot of what we do when we meet with students early, before they write, is we deconstruct a prompt with them. And we engage them in a conversation about seeing how well they understand what's being asked of them. And here are some of the questions that we ask. Making sure there's a, what's the purpose? Why are you doing this? Why do you think they're asking you to write about this topic? We talk a lot about thesis statements, which probably deserve a webinar of their own, but how do you write one that achieves the purpose of this assignment? And down to the more writing level things, when you start drafting, can you take keywords and concepts, make paragraphs around them, and then kind of concluding big picture ideas about, well, how is this going to help you as a social worker or as a public health professional, whatever professional field you're in. All right, so I bring this up because the assignment prompts are really, really important in students beginning their writing in a place that they know what they're supposed to do and how to express their understanding. All right, I'm going to actually show you an example of what I sit down and talk to a student about if we look at an assignment prompt and I talked to them about how to annotate it. How do you dig in and understand it before you start putting ideas on paper or on the computer? And so here are 2 strategies that I have them do. Highlight what you need to do, like go through, get all the verbs down there, find the thinking skills. Are you analyzing? Are you evaluating? Are you reflecting? Highlight those things. And then also get those keywords underlined. You'll notice that there's some underlining here. These are concepts that you have to, as a student, demonstrate to your professor. Make sure these words appear in your paper. If you have these ideas, a grasp of them before you start writing, then your paper and your thinking are going to turn out much better. So having a prompt that is clear in its focus, in its purpose, and in its what it's asking, makes this process of annotating much easier for us and for the students. So that brings me to the next point, which is the looking at the assignments. Chris is helping me here switch over. Thank you. Making the assignments accessible. So does the assignment, and this is good for you as instructors to be really clear on these things too, because this is what you're going to be assessing. What is the central question or focus of the assignment? Sometimes papers have a lot going on in them, and they're trying to accomplish, trying to assess a lot of content. And we try to help students figure out how do you hold the whole paper together when it has a bunch of questions it's asking you or different sections. So understanding overall what the main question is or the main purpose helps students a lot to see the big picture. Being really explicit about what skill are you analyzing, are you reflecting, are you synthesizing or evaluating. Sometimes papers combine those things, and again, it's making it clear to the students what section is using what particular skill. Good, clear assignment descriptions also provide the student with a sense of structure. So what's happening is if you have a framework for them, they don't spend a lot of time and energy trying to figure out what they're supposed to do or how to organize it, and instead can think about, do I understand this content and can I explain it clearly to my professor? And interestingly enough, I watched the 20-minute mentor that was presented this Monday. That's listed at the bottom of the slide about how I can help students see the sweat. Working hard and smart is the key to their success. And I totally picked up on a comment she made, is that unambiguous instructions or vague instructions or specific instructions actually can make students more productive in putting their energy into the thinking that you're hoping to see in their papers. So that's what we work with students on before they start writing, is just getting their heads around these assignments. And that is half the battle, I think, for many of them to begin writing a good paper. All right, here's one slide about what happens when we actually meet with students. They have a draft, they want us to look at it. Often they come to us and they expect us to be the grammar police or the citation police, and we will find all these mistakes and correct it for them, and we actually don't do that. Our first priority is making sure that, one, they're really addressing the prompt, that they're interpreting it, they got the critical thinking skills down, but also in the writing piece that there is focus, there's a thesis. Paragraphs talk about one thing at a time. It's an organization makes sense, and transitions between ideas, and do they have enough evidence? Those are all really bigger writing concerns before the editing, which is the sentence level stuff, the grammar, the periods and commas and such. That's not to say that we don't talk about that. We do, but it's not the focus, especially of a first draft. And I didn't mention up under revision that addressing source integration, helping students figure out how to maintain their voice, using sources well, paraphrasing well, Those are all priorities for us versus, did I format this correctly in APA or AMA? So you may sometimes say, a student may say, yeah, I did go to get some writing support. Maybe the sentences and the grammar isn't so hot, but we might have really worked hard on the bigger picture revision areas that isn't quite as evident in their final draft. So finally, we have been really happy to have been meeting with some instructional designers and interact with faculty already to start these discussions about how we can help and what our perspective is on how students are interpreting and understanding the assignment and the writing assignments. And we want to continue that discussion and invite you to collaborate with us for writing across the curriculum and looking at prompts and making it easier for you as instructors to assess the writing. That's a tough thing to do sometimes, and so we can talk about that and develop a common language about what good writing is. So thanks to the folks that have already worked with us, and we look forward to working with some of you that we haven't contacted yet. So thanks for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Henri now.
Thank you, Lori. That was fantastic. I really appreciate that information you've given, especially that demonstration on TutorTrack. I think I learned a few things myself. It was cool to see it from the student perspective for sure. Okay, so as you can see, this is me, Henri Moser. I'm UNE's online learning specialist, and I want to take a chance real quick to say thank you to Chris and to OWL/CGPS for continuing to offer these opportunities for the different departments to collaborate. It's kind of interesting at SASC, we have our own department, we're under student affairs, but it seems like we work actually more with the programs than we do with some of our own colleagues in our own department. So thank you to Chris for this opportunity. What I do is I work with grad students in public health, social work, and education, and these past 6 years, my colleagues at SASC and I have worked to create a comprehensive support program for the thousands of online graduate students that we have here at UNE, and it centers on academic and writing support with an emphasis on creating and maintaining connection between UNE staff and faculty and the students itself. So real quick, with the this comprehensive support program that I'm speaking about is it basically encompasses the following, and I'll get specific to some of these in a second. But we complete several workshops with the online grad students. We obviously complete writing support, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Lori pretty much nailed most of what we're going to talk about. Again, I want to reemphasize the fact that, with writing support, we use the papers to, as a tool to assist to address writing deficiencies, to actually offer writing instruction. So, we're not editing, and again, we still get students and even faculty sometimes, say, hey, I'm not going to accept your paper unless you have Lori Rand look at it first, okay? So again, it's about us making the students better writers, not completing these papers necessarily. We offer some content tutoring, and I will explain some of those to you in a second. A lot of what I do is kind of offer learning strategies, instruction to online grad students. I was an online grad student myself, and I've done a lot of research in this area, so it's kind of a synthesis of what I've learned in my professional research, but also with my own personal experience as a student and the online learning specialist, to kind of offer your students some pretty tangible ideas on how to be more effective as students. We also maintain this large asynchronous resource base, and as I say, asynchronous, understand that pretty much every connection or every interaction that we have with the students are now in a live format using Collaborate or AnyMeeting, but we still have available to us, we have this website that we maintain here, and we're actually coming up with a new one right now. But if you notice, this is basically a very large center for the students from these different programs to access and use. So, for example, we've got it broken up into a few different ways. The individual students can click on, they'll see their page and they'll say, so say we're a social work student, we click on it, and then we can further narrow into these areas. So what are we looking for? Some learning assistance, writing assistance. And then in here we have basically how to get support for these basic topics, but also we have several asynchronous resources as well, little videos on how to do formatting, how to avoid plagiarism, how to come up with that thesis statement, things like that. So that would be the one asynchronous component of our program, and that's what we've definitely worked hard these past few years, is trying to, again, to emphasize the connection between online students and UNE, because when I look at what online students need, and a big reason why they drop out is a lot of them feel isolated. They don't feel connected to the institution. So we basically figured out in OSASC, what can we do to contribute to these connections where they feel like they're part of a learning community. And then I put writing support again. It is a lot of what we do, and we want these students to be better writers, and we know that when we interview students, we interview faculty, everyone wants the students to be better writers, including themselves, for sure. So real quick, let's talk about some of these orientation workshops that I do. I present them to all the students during orientation, and the students choose to either participate live or watch recorded versions. And like I said earlier, we really do emphasize the use of these live interactions. So one of the workshops I do to all of the students, and it doesn't matter the program, but these are the new students during their orientation period, is I talk about the attributes of the graduating online graduate student. And again, this is kind of a synthesis of professional research and personal experience as a student and the online learning specialist. And some of the topics we discuss center on study skills necessary to complete an online graduate program. And they include professional communication, scheduling, planning and time management, maintaining discipline to a schedule, active learning, being aware of the available resources, creating online communication communities with student colleagues. These are some of the things I emphasize in that workshop. And another workshop that I do with all students is we do a kind of a preparation to graduate level writing. And I talk to them a lot about, the larger theme of this workshop is that graduate level students are basically immersed in other people's work, and that graduate level writing itself is a synthesis of scholarly writing, course materials, personal experience, faculty PowerPoints, all of the stuff is, this is what they're pulling from, and we're telling them when they're writing at this level, they're pulling from other people's information and how to properly present that, format it, and cite it. We also talk about, obviously, paraphrase and formatting and avoiding plagiarism. And I guess I kind of present this to everyone so that you guys get an idea of what we're instructing the students at the beginning. However, with that being said, many of these student skills, that we present in orientation, they remain in deficit throughout their time here at UNE. And with that basically leads us to the rest of my job and how I continue to address these deficits. And a little bit of background too in terms of how we came up with these deficits. Again, it's a collaboration between our department, faculty, and CGPS, instructional designers, and we're looking at what do the students need, what are they missing out on, what are some things that, kind of a wish list, what do faculty wish they could be better at, and that kind of really drives our programming and what we do. So some course level live workshops that I complete are where I actually go into your course and I'll get specific to some of these topics, and if any of these appeal to you and something that you want in your class, contact me and we can definitely add it to your course. And if there's something that some sort of objective that you want me to look at in terms of learning strategy, in terms of writing, in terms of being a better online grad student, get with me and we can brainstorm together a workshop and tailor it, exactly to your specific class. So one is, and this is a new one, this is one of my favorite ones, is reading with a purpose. So I actually go into a couple of classes, usually it's the introductory classes in the programs, and I'll instruct students on how to research and write simultaneously using outlines that they created from the prompt. And we know that a lot of times students will see all of those learning activities at the beginning of the module, and then they'll just start reading blindly. I got to read 62 pages, I've got to watch 90 minutes in videos, I've got to go through the PowerPoint, and then I'm going to go see what I have to do for this module. And what I do is I emphasize, looking at those discussion board prompts, breaking them up, kind of outlining what you're going to be looking for as you're doing the reading. So kind of reading with the purpose, reading and writing simultaneously. Another workshop that I do is for, again, faculty contact me and they say they'd like this in their course, and this is another example of what I do. And again, don't be shy in asking me to complete a workshop like this. But this one is it's been a phenomenal success in that we have students that fall behind. I kind of have this thing where I exhort the students, you need to work 90 to 120 minutes a day, each day on your coursework. And I show them how, you're going to have to do a ton of work for your module, but you've also got these, I don't want to put a negative connotation, but you've got these looming larger papers that are due in 3 weeks. And I kind of instruct the students how to specifically create plans for all the work you have to do for the module, as well as planning for that bigger paper. So again, it's at 90 to 120 minutes a day. This is definitely a faculty favorite for sure. It's better discussion board posting. This is where I tell the students that the discussion board is a formal place to demonstrate their understanding of the content, and it's a place to engage in dialogue to further your own understanding and your student colleagues of the content. And I tell them that these posts are formal in that they're research based, they're formatted properly, just as you would a formal writing. They're going to have citation, and basically their discussion board posts are going to be a presentation of a synthesis of the course materials. And another workshop I do as well is how to organize the larger writing assignments, and Lori touched on that a little bit, and I thought that was great that she brought that up, because sometimes faculty do think that we work with the students after something's done. And when we have individual appointments, we definitely help them organize it, and we're training them how to pull the major topics from the prompt. And we actually have a workshop where I go into class and I'll actually look at the first paper that's in that class, and we'll organize it together. And then even the next paper in the class, I'll have them take more of a leadership role, and they kind of organize it. And obviously they're going to do the research based on that outline. Content tutoring. This one is obviously it's pretty limited in the humanities subjects, but in public health and some of the research courses, we've definitely found some places to help. And in individual meetings and small group meetings, of course live, that's our mantra there, we tutor in statistical analysis programs like SPSS and Stata. We tutor in research and biostatistics, and finally we tutor in epidemiology. And again, depending on what your discipline is here, but if you have an idea of something that we can put on the table that we can be able to tutor for you, let us know. And this is definitely something we're looking to increase. And learning strategy sessions. This one's pretty interesting, and this is kind of the crux of a learning specialist position, and it's always taken a back seat because we're always kind of triaging, addressing these massive holes and working hard to get people to stay on schedule, to complete the papers. And what I've definitely learned is that the more we are proactive in teaching these individual sessions, these matriculated online students in these individual sessions, I teach them about time management and learning strategies, unique to the online platform, such as schedule creation, staying to that schedule, communication with faculty and programs, staying connected to your student colleagues, how to garner support from work, how to garner support from your family, how to kind of avoid distractions and stay away from the phone, things like that. And I guess I'd say, as a recommendation, unfortunately, a lot of these contacts that we get from students are referrals from faculty, or the referrals from student specialists in CGPS, and they're usually students that have been struggling for a long time. And I kind of argue that it's probably too long of a time. And it's I'd make a suggestion here that faculty and program support staff, to recommend informally, these students that they kind of see, they may be at risk, they're having a hard time understanding the prompt, they're having a hard time, with that, even that first discussion board. I mean, I know you guys can see those first couple of posts, and you can see someone who's going to do well and someone who's going to struggle. And again, make contact, make a referral, say, hey, talk to Henry, talk to Lori, okay? And I just think that we look at learning strategies as very important in graduate school, but for some reason it just seems to get ignored a lot with online learning, and I think we filled a lot of gaps with this program. And Lori and I were talking about some things that we see from our unique perspective as, the students feel very comfortable to talk to us about, what they like about the program and what's working really well. And I thought I'd share some of these comments in terms of the conversations we've had with the students. And one of them is that the students, they really welcome a consistent kind of program level writing grading standards. They kind of show dissatisfaction when they'll say that, one faculty member doesn't grade APA, the other one has really high expectations. Sometimes the students will say they got an A in every class, and now suddenly they're failing, they don't know what they're doing differently. And it just seems to be sometimes maybe a disconnect in consistency with the standards and grading the students. Another thing the students appreciate is, they really mention this increased interaction with their faculty and peers. They love to interact with the faculty. They love to interact with the students, and I'd say that students have definitely mentioned Blackboard. They like courses where they get ample, meaningful feedback from faculty, and they like classes that are very easy to negotiate in Blackboard, where the writing assignments have their own tab. They like syllabi that are updated, and there's one thing too I thought I'd bring up too is they really like the modules that match up with the week. Sometimes there are courses designed where we have module 1, module 2, and multiple weeks are within each module, and I know they kind of show some frustration there. They really like the module 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, this is just some informal data, from working with the students, stuff we've noted ourselves in terms of how we can be better. And one thing about SASC staff is that we really enjoy working with instructional designers and faculty, on course strengths and areas of improvement, and again, how can we help? And I think that we feel better about the day or the evening whenever we're working. We feel better when we know we're doing a good job, and I think collaboration is key with these interdepartments in order to maintain this kind of high level of support.
And I just got a question from Titi, as well as an exclamation of positive surprise. I'll start with the positive surprise. Titi mentioned that it was very good that you offer tutoring in biostatistics, and perhaps I'm reading a little bit into the tone, but it seemed like that was unexpected. But the question was, doesn't UNE require AMA for all referencing regardless of the program?
The second part of that question, it depends on the program, of course, and I think social work and nutrition, public health and nutrition for the online programs are AMA formatting. The other, education and social work, more humanities-based, it's APA formatting. And the first part about biostats, and again, this is why this collaboration is great and this opportunity to let you know. I mean, we do probably between 2 tutors. We do, during biostats probably weeks 2 through week 7, maybe even week 8, we do almost 30 hours of tutoring for biostat students, and it becomes so heavy that we actually do small groups where I'll meet with the students on Monday. I'll meet with 5 to 8 of them on Monday, and we'll talk about the module that was just finished, and then I'll meet again on Friday with some of the same students and other students who can only meet on Friday. We'll take a look at the current module or the one coming up, and it's grown over time in terms of addressing these needs, and I'm glad you brought that up. And yeah, definitely refer the students to us during biostats. Some future projects, and again, this is really quick, kind of where we're headed. Obviously it's to grow our department in terms of reaching and reaching more students and working with other departments. But this is one thing that I want to talk about real quick is writing across the curriculum, and this is at the the very beginning stages here at SASC. But we had actually begun a few years ago designing a writing across the curriculum program with public health. And as there were those massive structural changes, it kind of got swept under the table because there were bigger pressing projects. But what writing across the curriculum is where we kind of brainstorm 6 to 8 very necessary writing skills that we all kind of agree between faculty and professional writing staff. What do we think graduate students need to be able to do in terms of writing? And we kind of spread them out amongst the courses. So as an example, the first course in social work or the first course in public health, we would look at thesis writing, thesis statement writing, and maybe a strong introduction. Those would be 2 skills that we would look at, and somehow it's incorporated in the course that faculty is going to present some of this information. The staff at SASC is definitely going to emphasize this instruction, and when we're working with the students. And also sometimes faculty is going to look when they're actually grading some of the assignments, their writing component of the grade are going to center on these specific objectives. And obviously, as they spend more time in the program, they're going to reach more and more of these objectives as they work, as they go through. And this is what research is showing. If you really want to improve writing at a larger level in grad school, it's kind of subtle, but explicit instruction in some of these tasks throughout the program, not just in a workshop or some sort of remedial writing class, that a lot of us think, I guess that's kind of definitely the old paradigm is, if the person's not writing up to snuff, we need to stick them in a class. And they've seen that writing across the curriculum has been highly effective. And ESOL opportunities. This has been an area in a couple of our programs where the need has grown and we have not. So we're looking at increasing staffing and, again, opportunities for these students and developing some sort of program or definitely some structure where we can meet these students in a kind of a systematic way. And again, similar to writing, it's some sort of program that we can kind of work with students longer term to help them improve with their writing. And finally, we're always emphasizing, working with OWL, working with CGPS, working with faculties, ID, saying, what can we do to help, okay, and what can we do better, what have we seen that's working, things like that. And I will leave it there. And again, thanks to Chris for giving us this chance to tell us a little bit about what we do. And I'll reiterate, anything that you see, is almost like you're shopping here. If you see any of these little items that you think, you may be interested, just give me a call. And if you have an idea out of the box, some sort of, small group that you seem to have every year in this one class, you seem to have 5 or 6 of these people that behave in a certain way, and we can work together to see how we can kind of, solve whatever we need to solve there. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll say thanks a lot.
Now's a good time to take questions if you have them. I wanted to also bring up something that came up with TT, who clarified the fact that, yes, it wasn't clear that biostatistics was something that SASC offered tutoring in, and I think we could really, if we were to distill sort of the message of this webinar down to something, it is getting the word out for all of the different ways that SASC can help, as Henry was pointing out. So I asked TT and I asked the rest of you to get the word out for the different things that you've seen here that you are surprised by, because chances are if you were surprised by them, other people in your department might be surprised by them as well. And there was another question, and Henry or Lori can take this, about how do you handle issues of academic integrity or plagiarism if you're encountering them early on when a student is working on a draft? Would either of you like to take that?
Yeah, that's a good one. I definitely, when we meet the students in orientation, we definitely have a large component about plagiarism and what we've seen at the graduate level in terms of most of the students who are plagiarizing are usually plagiarizing due to kind of a misunderstanding of the of the standards. It's usually poor paraphrase, to be honest, but it's basically about instructing these students how to do it right. And when we see it, obviously we give a little bit of instruction, and what we've seen in the past, I guess there's 3 different kind of interactions. One is where a student has been in trouble a couple of different times, and I've actually worked with the dean of students, and we've come up with ways to, maybe the student's already been warned once and they got in trouble again, where we kind of have like a kind of an ad hoc committee where we work on coming up with a plan. And another one is we will sometimes just see it, and it's sometimes it's their first paper, and if it's the first time we worked with them, it could have been their 9th paper, but we look at it and it's always kind of a delicate conversation. I can tell that these are great ideas, and what we need to work on is we need to work on how to present these properly, because how you're presenting these is, unfortunately, it's in a way where you're almost claiming credit, or something's incorrect here, and again, it's just specific instruction on how to paraphrase and how to cite properly. And I think Lori, you want to add something? No, Lori's good. Okay, yeah, so that's a good question.
And another question that is about plagiarism and academic integrity. In GPPH, our students are busy professionals, so do you offer chunked, let me see the exact word, short videos or visuals on plagiarism that can be posted to our website or used as resources in our program?
Yeah, we have some. We have some of those resources available on our website, but as we create our new website, what we're doing is we're increasing those resources. And I like how you said that, these short chunks, that's kind of what we're emphasizing now, are these 3 to 5 minute videos that are very specific to, targeting, that we have to come up with a pretty good title that's catchy so they know exactly what the objective is, and they can click it and kind of watch it in 3 to 5 minutes. And again, we're working on increasing our resources for there in that area for sure.
Okay, we have a couple more questions coming in. What is the average wait time when making an appointment with SASC?
It all depends on when they, how early on they get a hold of us. If it's close to a deadline, it is more challenging, but if I'm interpreting the question correctly, and you saw the available appointments when I was showing you Tutor Track, they can get an appointment usually within a couple of days of looking for one. We also encourage them to contact us directly if they're not finding a time that fits their schedule. We try to be as flexible as possible so they're not waiting that long. Okay,
and thank you, Lori. We have one more question, and this kind of goes back to something that I mentioned at the beginning, which is, UNE is a college, and it's interacting with students in different ways, and students are enrolled in different fashions depending on their program at UNE. And I have a question about science prerequisites for health professionals. Are there tutoring services? And I'm going to expand this question to tutoring services, or are there resources that students in that program can use?
Yeah, so currently it is, I guess it's our policy to not provide, I mean, it's going to sound negative, I guess, but again, what we're told is we do not provide services for non-matriculated students. And when you look at some of the content in some of these courses, we're looking at organic chemistry, we're looking at very specific, kind of high-level tutoring needs, and every now and then we will get a request and we have to turn them away saying we just don't have a tutor. We can't hire, we can't hire somebody who's going to tutor specifically in one of these topics in say anatomy, someone who's going to tutor in anatomy. So in terms of resources, we have very little available. This is something in terms of, in our growth plan that we're looking at our long-term goals of, how we can possibly incorporate these individuals. But again, I tell them, unfortunately, I work with them on, and we'll look online and we'll try to find some of these online tutors available to them where they pay, and they're pretty readily available. I mean, if you just did kind of a quick search, online tutoring for organic chemistry, you can find some people that charge, varying amounts of money. It's just, the prerequisites are kind of, they're such a specific and they're targeted areas of content that, we're just not able to serve 13 different, each course has like 13 different, 13 different fields, and where we're at right now, we just don't have the staff to do it. But it's possible in the future.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Lori and Henry, for talking about OSASC and everything that you guys do. I was like amazed to see the whole appointment, scheduling an appointment, the scheduling system and like how that works, and I learned a lot here today. So thank you very much, and goodbye.